Welcome to the GeoTalk podcast, where we discuss civil, environmental, and geotechnical engineering, geosynthetics, and other issues related to infrastructure. I'm Chris Kelsey, editor of Geosynthetica.net. We're seeing a dramatic shift in how communities respond to stormwater. A significant amount is being spent in infrastructure to keep stormwater out of drainage systems to the extent possible. Rain gardens, porous pavements, and many other solutions are being tapped. I caught up with Robert Bowers, Director of Engineering of the Interlocking Concrete Pavement Institute, who shared details on how ICPI is responding to the needs of communities and contractors in the search for better, more immediate strategies for managing stormwater. My guest today is Robert Bowers, Director of Engineering with the Interlocking Concrete Pavement Institute. Robert, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Tell me a little bit to start out about the Interlocking Concrete Pavement Institute. What's the work you guys perform? What role do you play within these industries?
Okay. The Interlocking Concrete Pavement Institute is a trade association representing the producers and installers of interlocking concrete pavement materials and systems. Our goal is to actually be a technical resource for our members. So providing technical information through our various different education programs, as well as our website being a sort of a key central point where information can be obtained on all different aspects. One of the things we've done is develop a series of documents we refer to as Tech Specs, and they are very focused documents looking at specific aspects of the interlock concrete pavement. Now, it could be anything from structural design, there's a construction process, there's ones that look at different crosswalk research Tech Spec we did, different installation methods, bituminous set. Paver installations is a good example. All of these are concise documents that can be referenced for design professionals, contractors, owners, so that they can really bring themselves up to speed on what are the key details they need to know.
Do you develop these technical resources only for your members, or are some of them developed for the public?
Actually, all the tech specs are developed for broad distribution.
Okay.
They are all available on our website and freely downloadable. So anybody who has questions or interest can obtain the information.
Sure.
Some of our members do actually purchase them in a printed form and distribute printed versions, and those are available to members, but the actual content and information, anybody can obtain that from our website. Okay.
What are the ways in which the Institute has incorporated geosynthetics as part of the engineering information?
Well, geosynthetics are definitely used within interlocking concrete pavement industry. We actually just published a tech spec on geosynthetics for our contractors and designers interested in the pavement systems to understand the different types of geosynthetic materials that are available to them and how they can actually be incorporated in the design. Quite often we'll do a design of a pavement where we're looking at separation between the subgrade and the base material to preserve the function of the base over a long period of time. Obviously, that's looking at using some form of a geotextile. So we talk about the different types of geotextiles that are available in that tech spec, woven, non-woven. We even break it down further into the woven and look at some more of the construction of the geotextiles and which ones are more appropriate. And then, which geotextile would be appropriate for a given site application. Is there a reinforcement component that they're looking at, or is it strictly a separation aspect that they're trying to deal with? So again, giving contractors, owners a sense of what direction they should be going. This tech spec that we created, I think it's about 24 pages. It is far from being a designer's guide for geosynthetics. it's an introduction to get people at least pointed in the right direction so they can start asking appropriate questions of a designer and make sure we focus in on the best materials for the application. So separation is a common one. We also we use geosynthetic materials, geotextiles, for base bedding layer confinement as well. With all our interlock concrete pavement systems, they're traditionally set on a 1-inch loose sand bedding material. And if we have a site where there are cracks, a good example is curbs, where there's cold joints in the curbs. That's a primary location to lose bedding sand. So we'll always be talking about using a geotextile as like a flashing over that area to retain that bedding sand. So there's that aspect. When we get into permeable interlocking concrete pavement systems, we get into some more interesting aspects and uses of geotextiles. We start looking at systems where we're looking to contain the water. So use of a geomembrane and a geotextile protection obviously become very important. The reservoir that we use under these systems is typically 2 to 3 inch angular stone.
Yeah.
So if we're going to line the system with a geomembrane, obviously we're looking at some kind of protection in there of that membrane as well. And then we use that as a containment collection system. So rainwater harvesting is getting to be a little more interesting possibility with a permeable pavement. So we've got systems where we're trying to collect the water. There's other areas where we want to use a permeable pavement to capture any surface flows, but we want to contain the water. So a good example is a gas station. We don't necessarily want the water running off. We want to collect what is there and have a valve that we can shut off and say, okay, we've contained any spill that may have occurred. So again, proper selection of a geomembrane for that particular application is going to be a little more critical. It's not just a off-the-shelf type of scenario. The Tech Spec is, like I said, literally it's a primer to get them started to ask the right questions.
Are you seeing considerable growth now in the interest in the permeability, the permeable paver systems?
Definitely.
Because
permeable pavements are growing. ICPI does an annual survey of sales, and we're typically looking at a growth in there for permeable pavements in about the 10 to 15% annually, if not higher. So it is a significant growth area for the interlocking concrete pavement industry. We also are, finding a lot of municipalities, government agencies are very interested in the technology. At this conference, as a good example, there's definitely interest in permeable pavement technology and how that can be applied to stormwater management. Excellent example is, like we said, the city of Atlanta. They have
an extensive project.
They've just completed a project where they've constructed 4 miles of streets in the southeast area of Atlanta, where their goal is to reduce flooding that normally occurs in those areas. The way that we're looking to reduce flooding is, well, let's reduce the volume of stormwater that has to be dealt with at its source. So where the water falls on the pavement, it's literally being designed to be cleaned, detained, and encouraged to filter back into the groundwater. So that's a huge project for them, and it's a significant project for the industry itself.
And that's using a newer style of interlocking concrete pavement.
Interlock concrete pavements been around since the 50s in Europe, came to North America in the late 70s, and traditionally they've always had a very tight joint between the units, so they fit together very tightly, whereas a permeable interlock concrete pavement system, they're designed so that those joints are enlarged. typically 1/4 inch up to a 1/2 inch maximum size. And those joints are filled with a very permeable aggregate, very fine aggregate material. And that allows the water that falls on the pavement surface to actually flow into the joints. We also designed the substructure, the base and sub-base system for these permeable pavements as a graded aggregate filter, so that we can actually filter out pollutants as the water percolates down through the system. But it's also a significant detention system. You can do the calculations, but for every cubic meter of aggregate base material we have, we can typically be storing about 350 to 400 liters of water.
Wow. You
multiply that by the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of square meters of parking lots or driveways or streets. The volumes can be huge.
Yes, that's...
And what we're doing is, effectively you're eliminating a detention pond from a development site by incorporating that detention function underneath the pavement of the road. So we're combining a road system, a detention system, all into one. The other piece that we also deal with is the reduction in the total volumes of water that has to be dealt with. Traditionally, the permeable pavement systems that we've been looking at and measuring and looking at the volumes of water that we're actually be able to reduce, we're seeing even in fine-grained soils, silty clay type soils, we're looking at total volume reductions in the order of about 50% of the total volume. So that is a huge relief on stormwater infrastructure that's already, in a lot of cases, maxed out. So it's giving some extended life, or it's extending the capacity of existing structures, even with additional development being added to the systems.
Sure.
By basically getting rid of that water at its source, which is a huge benefit.
Yeah, it's a fantastic impact that interlocking concrete pavement systems are having. Robert, I really appreciate you sharing your insight.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you. You can learn more about the Interlocking Concrete Pavement Institute's work and access a large body of resources at www.icpi.org. In the Tech Specs area of that website, you'll find the link to Tech Spec 22, a freely available document on geosynthetics for segmental concrete pavements. As always, we've added links and additional information on Geosynthetica. Visit geosynthetica.net and click on the Media tab for podcast links, contacts, and resources affiliated with each episode. Thanks for listening.